question here in the front row.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm also a part of the Youth Advisory Council of the US government. So I have two simple questions for you. The first one is, with the possible cut down on outsourcing, it leads to a lot of protectionism. And do the Indians have to be worried about their jobs? And my second...
Okay, let's take one question at a time so we can get other people to respond.
So you're talking about outsourcing from the United States to India?
1 minute, please. Excuse me, we'll try and get everybody
outsourcing from the United States to India. Well, you know, it's been going on for many years now, and it's part of our economic relationship with India. And I think that, you know, there are advantages with it that have certainly benefited many parts of our country, and there are disadvantages that go to the need to, you know, improve the job skills of our own people and create a better economic environment. So it's like anything, it's you know, got pluses and minuses.
There's a new advertisement, an election campaign of President Obama that's causing a lot of heartburn here over outsourcing.
Well, you know, it's an election campaign, and there is an obligation in any election campaign
to overstate a little bit.
Well, I don't know about overstating. I wouldn't go that far, but to talk about what's on people's minds. And you know, it's more directed toward the fear that a lot of Americans who were in manufacturing who don't feel like they have any other job possibilities because they weren't trained for any other job possibilities. So it's a legitimate issue. It needs to be aired. But I think the President has been very clear that he wants to improve our own exports. You know, when we're on the way to doubling our exports, he wants to improve education, skills training, so that people can have the jobs of the 21st century. So it's fair to talk about, but you also have to have a solution that looks at what's really going to work.
What is that solution, Hillary Clinton? Is it TPP? Is it another trade agreement? Hey, everybody. We are adjusting some volume here. We've got Bernie Sanders in Traverse City, Michigan. Hi, all. I see an audience building there. Nice to see you guys. Rosie and Bad Wolf and Gloria and J Vintage 1970, Ski Vermont, Iron Chef, Hannah Banana, Gloria, Glenn. Wonderful. JS Tube 36. How are you doing, everybody? We've got Bernie coming up. Again, I'm trying to adjust the volumes here on the things. Let's see how we going there. So that was Hillary Clinton. That was Hillary Clinton a few years back talking about, you know, outsourcing. And with regard to people here, we just gotta, you know, they just don't have training. But, you know, it's an election year. People are gonna overstate. Yeah. Hillary Clinton. That's Hillary Clinton, folks. She believes in trade agreements. Oh, and by the way, the headphones, I broke my other ones. Normally, I do the newsroom show and I wear this little earpiece. You can't see headphones. I broke those. I rolled over them with the chair. I got to order me another pair. And so, not trying to rhyme there. And so I went to these headphones. Anyway, yeah. Did everyone watch? Please, no. Don't go watch the Ted Cruz booger video. It's bad. Don't go watch it. It's bad. I wouldn't watch it, folks. It'll make you sick. Looks like by the way, I'm monitoring the Bernie Sanders live event right now. Okay, it hasn't started. They got some kids up on the stage. We'll take a look at what's going on here. I think we're going to get lucky today, guys. I think we're going to get lucky, and we're going to get this feed, and we're going to have the feed later on from Grand Rapids. I don't have an actual firm confirmation of feed from Grand Rapids yet, but this one here is coming from a different station. It's coming from upnorthlive.com, and we really want to thank upnorthlive.com for providing this feed, because without these guys, we wouldn't be able to get Bernie out to the rest of the world. So, are you guys having buffering issues? Are we having problems? I'm showing a good solid stream here. Anyway, that's the Bernie Sanders event. That's in Traverse City right now. And we really want to push, those of us that are burners, that are working on the political revolution, we are pushing the fact that Bernie and Hillary Clinton are very, very different when it comes to their records and their statements on trade agreements. Bernie's record on trade agreements has been he doesn't like them. He doesn't sign them. He doesn't think they're good for people, because they're not. They're only good for corporations. Trade agreements benefit corporations. They screw the environment, and they screw other nations. And sometimes we'll look at that with India and an article I was talking about earlier. I don't know how many of you were with me in the newsroom. We're going to go over some of that stuff simply because there's going to be new people here, and those people have not heard this news, right? And I am watching carefully. As soon as I see somebody get up to speak for this event, we'll cut over to that. That's another reason why I started a little early here. I don't know that I have anybody in comment mod. If there's anybody in Slack, anybody listening here, anybody in the chat, I know that Robin Morris had talked about, I will get a sheet set up here really quickly. And here, you guys, look at that. That's what they got going on. I'd love to get a conversation going on with you guys. What do we got here? So we've got, I've got a lovely event set up in the comment moderation document for Lawrence, Kansas, which we didn't use. Why don't we use that? Oh no, look, Traverse City is up here. Traverse City is right here, guys. Okay, this is the beautiful thing about a volunteer network, is that so many different parts and pieces get together to make it work. As long as I don't break things on the ground there. I just broke something. All right, so what do we got? Oh, I just saw that. That's terrible. Snotgotiate. That's terrible. Don't watch it. Don't watch it. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. All right, let's talk about some stuff. Talk about some stuff. So we watched the Hillary Clinton outsourcing video. Why does that matter? I want to hit something that she said in that. Bernie's calling her the outsourcer in chief, and we've got a clip from Darcy. Very important message to Bernie Sanders supporters. But I want to. Where is this damn clip? I want to talk to you about. Here we go. If you weren't familiar, here's one of those trade deals that Hillary was okay with, that Bill Clinton put into works, that is now screwing the country of India in the name of renewable energy. This is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. Hey, Robin, you're there? Awesome. So, cool. Let me make sure I get that set up. I'll grab that in the comment. Right? All right. As soon as I see some comments backing up on this in Lawrence, Kansas, I see them starting. We'll get those rolling. Anyway, back to this thing here, folks. So, what's going on here, if you're not aware, is the WTO agreement had to deal with, has something to do with exports to India. India was buying solar panels from the United States. Right? We're not really focused on solar energy in the United States. We've got a lot of people making panels, but we really didn't focus on solar energy, did we? In the United States, we're still focused on fossil fuels. We went into fracking. Right? At the time this was going down, the WTO agreement, we were heavily getting into fracking. Hillary Clinton was starting to sell fracking all around the world. Fracking was just becoming this, wow, look at this thing. We can do more damage to the environment and suck more fossil fuel out of the ground and sell it to people instead of going solar, instead of going wind, instead of going renewables like the rest of the damn planet is doing. So what happens is, over time, India says, you know, we can make solar panels for less. We can make them in our own country, and we can make them better because we're not dealing with this capitalist bullshit that America's got going on. Exports of solar panels from the United States to India dropped 90%. Go figure. But because of the rules in this trade agreement, the WTO, in the interest of exports, which is what this was, in the interest of United States exports, see, good for the USA was how it was promoted, it screws India because it says, no, you can't do that. You don't get to make your own. You have to buy them from us. Right? You have to pay more for probably a shittier product. And then, in all of the hypocrisy, we are going to ship it across the fucking world to you. All right. Now I realize this is a Bernie Sanders event. Sorry, it's not the newsroom. I'll chill on the F-bombs. But seriously, what? Seriously, this is ridiculous. This is the kind of stuff. So when we talk about, as we're in Michigan right now, and Michigan was really screwed. The auto industry, when it was allowed to move jobs overseas, thanks to Bill Clinton, thanks to trade agreements, when the auto industry was allowed to move industry overseas to build cheaper cars, paying cheaper wages, building a shittier product than they could have built in the United States of America. The same auto industries we bailed out, these bastards we bailed out because they moved their jobs overseas. because the trade agreements allowed them to do so, right? The same trade agreements where Hillary Clinton says outsourcing, we do that. That's what we do. Yep, we let the auto industry outsource and screw Michigan, right? Screw Flint, screw Detroit. But it doesn't screw the auto industry. They came out fine and dandy. They survived, and then we bailed them out. We helped them out. It was great. They made a lot of money. They stayed fine. All of their CEOs stayed fine. And Michigan was devastated because of trade agreements, folks. Trade agreements that Hillary Clinton's just fine and dandy with. And the TPP, which is just an extension of the WTO in many ways, being pushed by Obama. Hillary has not said she's against it. All she's said is that it doesn't meet her standards, which probably means it doesn't meet her standards for establishment kickbacks. Trade agreements do nothing for the people. They certainly aren't doing anything for India. India, congratulations to you for freeing yourself of the American capitalist asshole group there. I hope you just say, screw you, WTO. I hope you just ignore the trade agreement. The United States has no problem ignoring some of its obligations. The United States has ignored its obligations to Native Americans for, well, every obligation to Native Americans. Every single document the United States government has signed with Native Americans, they have shit on. So we have no problem breaking our agreements when it's convenient. I suggest the country of India break its agreement with us. Why not? Go for it, India. I suggest to you, you give America the finger and continue to build your own solar and grow your own renewables, right? And tell the establishment in America to just go F off, you know? Anyway, what do we got? Traverse City is the shit? Yes, Jay Vintage. Clean John on here, Dirty John on Newsroom. That's what it's supposed to be. I'm going to try. I'm going to really try. Just coming off one or the other. It's tough. But that is the goal. That is the goal. I'm looking over here. Seriously, nothing's going on yet, folks. They're just hanging about. They are just hanging out. Actually, I could put that up over there. I have so many screens. So many screens. How many people are with us here? We've got more than 80 plus, which means we probably got about 100 people here. We're just biding some time, talking about some news stories. They're supposed to have speakers starting here any moment. I don't think Bernie Sanders was delayed, but have you guys, I don't know if you guys are aware, but the last several 3, 4, 5 events, I'm not even sure how, they've all been delayed because of the ridiculous volume of people showing up at those events. I think the only exception was the South Carolina event, right? But South Carolina was a poor showing of humans anyway. But these events that Bernie's doing, 17,000 people showed up. I think it was in Michigan the other day. I could be quoting where he was. 17,000 people showed up for Bernie Sanders, not mandatory. Okay? They just showed up to see this man. 1,000 people showed up for Hillary same day. That was super. I think it was Super Tuesday. 1,000 people showed up for Hillary in New York, and they didn't show up because they wanted to. They showed up because they were paid to. They were paid union wage and overtime in some cases. 1,000 people. It was mandatory. And that's why she got that many people there. Bernie Sanders gets 17,000 people at an event because they want to go. Because they recognize that he gives a shit about the nation. Right? 134 is what you're seeing, guys? Nice. Thank you, Earthy48 Johnson. Hope you talk about me or Bernie Sanders. We both speak our mind. Bill Clinton is a lobbyist for Noble Energy. He absolutely is. He absolutely is. There's a, oh, you know what? Before we move on. Oh, here. I know what I was doing. Squirrel. You know, there are people, and people that I was watching when I was first creating this, that were able to do all of the production, right, and have a conversation. So much better at it than I am. Seriously. So right now I'm getting a frozen screen. I was going to show you all the action here on Uptown Live. Here they are. It's the kids, but it's frozen at the moment. Trust me, nothing's happening. I'm looking at it on other places. Let's just go here. Oh, maybe they all froze. Let's see. That's the fun part about working on the internet, trying to deliver streams on an internet that hasn't really been updated to meet the needs of the American public, right? If you heard me talking in the newsroom earlier, I was talking about the city of Longmont. We were talking about cops, good cops, bad cops, progressive cops. Okay, the entire feed on upnorthlive.com is frozen. So maybe I'm not bringing you a stream, guys. Maybe we killed it. I don't know. Let's find out. I'm going to check live. Got anything going on here? Anybody seeing an image coming out of these guys? Upnorthlive.com should be a live event. Huh. Well, I guess we'll just keep rolling. We may not have a feed at this point. I was all excited, but now it looks like it's froze. Sometimes this happens, but usually they do something about it. Right now, they don't seem to be doing anything about it. Apologies, guys. This is what it is. We're dealing with infrastructure in this country that is not adequate. There are some places in this country that are different, like Longmont, Colorado. Longmont, Colorado is building its own fiber network to provide to the public. Fiber access all across the community of Longmont. But that's because their chief of public safety, Mike Butler, is a restorative justice fan. Right? And he gets it. He's the chief of police. He's actually chief of public safety, what he likes to call himself. Chief of public safety, which includes fire, police, infrastructure, and something else. And I always forget what the last part is, and I feel bad about it. But he takes care of all that stuff. That's when you have a town and the town gets together and says, we need infrastructure, real infrastructure to meet the needs of the modern era. Fiber. Our country, our government should have laid fiber a long time ago. Now we've got companies like Comcast and Google competing to do that, and then they want to slap TPP on us so they can control where we go and what we see. Don't know how that's going to work, folks. These live feeds are interfering with my life. Yeah, I hear you. Hillary didn't pull the plug, guys. I just don't know what's going on. I got no. It's supposed to be running right now, and I got nothing. I'm gonna keep reloading. Maybe they pulled it. Maybe they decided not to go with it. I don't know. This happens all the time. Yep, Reagan gave up fiber optics. Well, Reagan needed to put money into Star Wars. He was much more interested in Star Wars and making it. Basically, Reagan's whole game was to outspend. Oh, maybe might come back. Something's happening. Yay. Reagan's whole deal, folks, was a bluff. It was to outspend. Oh, not a bluff. We built tons and tons and tons of war machines and missiles and tons of missiles. We built so many frickin' missiles. We even lied to the American public in the 70s. Look at the SALT treaties and what we said about the number of missiles. The Russians didn't have shit. The Russians were broke. We outspent them. Yay for us. Because we spent all our money on war instead of spending our money on, us. All right, I'm getting color bars from Up North Live. And we're back with the live event. Okay, so here I can show you. Nothing's still going on. We've got some people organizing there. So they had an infrastructure problem, folks. An infrastructure problem. It's very common today in this country, that's for sure. Let's run, since we're looking to cut on time here, and it hasn't quite started yet, let's run Bernie's little ad on Flint, which is very compelling, and he tells the story about talking to the woman. Flint is a disgrace. It's a national disgrace. Michigan and all of what has happened to that industrial area is a disgrace. All of America needs to be ashamed for dropping the ball there, for letting that entire state down. Our government is responsible. And the only way we're going to fix that is if we remove establishment politicians from power and replace them with Bernie-crats that actually give a shit. Nothing's going to happen until we do that, folks. Here's Bernie talking about Flint.
Jane and I have 4 kids, and we have 7 very beautiful grandchildren. Can you imagine being a mother, seeing your own child's intellectual development deteriorate in front of your very eyes? If the local government cannot protect those children, if the state government cannot protect those children, then the federal government better get in and do the right thing. I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message. Jane and I have...
All right. I realize it's a lot more effective when I have the video framed up first, and then you can like see all of Bernie. But really, you don't need to see Bernie. You can see any imagery and hear the man talk. And you just you hear the man talk, and you're moved. I'm moved. I think that's why this country is there. What do we got? Just looking at things. Oh, you know what? I keep forgetting. We got lots of comments here. Let's back up. Start right about here. I got to get in there and start marking the comments. That was what I forgot to do, folks. I'm so bad. We're going to have a good time. Looks like we got a nice clean feed here from upnorthlive.com. Really want to thank those guys. I have no idea who you are. You're obviously a northern Michigan area channel, and you're local, and I appreciate that. Everybody, you know, we're not monetized here. We don't. We're not trying to take away anything from these folks. Oh, looks like we got somebody going up. So let's cut over to this now. They might just be cheering folks on. Yeah, all right.
I was told to wait.
All right, they're not doing anything. Sorry. False alarm. They had a guy getting up there. He's doing a mic test. That's what's going on. Hang with me, folks. This it says we got a mic check going on. We ran a video. I'm just gonna sit here and read some of your comments and chat with you until we see somebody coming up. There's a guy getting things ready. It looks like they're panning the camera. You can see that here. That's what's going on. Okay, now March for Bernie, and something else. Somebody mentioned earlier. I think it was JB Vintage 1970s sent me a link. I don't know who it was. One of you guys sent me a link about DC marches or democracy in spring. Shit, I can't remember. Anyway, I got it. I saw the email. I'll look at it. I'm happy to talk about it. I just got to investigate and dig into it and make sure it's a 100% legit thing. Months ago, we were like, everybody was asking us to promote all these different marches and things, and we stopped because so many of them were like not organized or not happening, and if they're not officially through the campaign, oftentimes they're like a mess. And what happens is people ask us to cover the event, and we're not a news agency in the sense that I've got reporters where I can just go over there and cover that event. In order to cover the event, I need someone who's there at this place who can learn how to come in and join a Google Hangout with us so that we can broadcast from your area. That's what it takes. So a lot of the times for these events, they're like, why can't you film this or bring us this or shoot this? And I'm like, because I'm not ABC News, you know? I don't have a SAT truck. But we can do it. So if this event is real, you're doing a great job. Thank you, Tanya Pareto, and Rosie Perez. Everybody's doing a great comment job. Yeah, you guys are fantastic. Compliment each other on what we do. We have to cheer each other up. This is so true. Is this guy is he doing cheers?
I've been with the local Bernie group since July. About 5 or 6 of us, 7 got together when we heard Bernie was going to do a live stream nationwide. Had a couple events here, 50 at a clubhouse at an apartment complex, and another 72 at the library. And now look what happened. It's just incredible. Yeah, just since July. And anyway, we got to carry this momentum forward to the primary. It's not just here to see Bernie. That's the main item right now, I know, but we got to get Bernie. Bernie's got to win the nomination. He's got to win Michigan. And we got a plan to do it. I don't want anybody to leave this place today if they have not seen someone with a clipboard, and I want you to sign up to spread the word. We've got canvassing, we've got phone banking, we've got get out the vote, and we've got a field office at 1000 Milliken Drive. You all know where that is? Have you been there? It's a beautiful place. We're having shifts starting at 9 in the morning, 12 noon, 3 o'clock, and I think there might even be a 6 o'clock. So if you haven't signed up on a clipboard with somebody here today to volunteer, to do something, and there's other things you could do, stop by the office.
Yes, you're looking at a picture of my cat there. Hang on, I gotta switch feeds.
To get out the vote. So everybody here, volunteer. Find someone with a clipboard on the way out. You'll see them all over the place. We've got lots of people here taking names, numbers, and emails.
There you go. Things should actually be in sync now. Apologies.
Thank you. Now, I want you to please welcome John Coleman. He is a building trades union member here in Traverse City, and he is going to have the honor of introducing you to the next president of the United States.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you on behalf of the building trades of Northern Michigan. You all know why we're here. Jobs, infrastructure, climate change, and corporate greed. The destruction of the American middle class has been in slow and steady decline since before I was a child. The once proud cities of the American Midwest have been devastated by the loss of jobs, good paying union jobs. These jobs are currently being replaced by low-end jobs.
And it's buffering. Got Mr. Frozen Guy, and I have no idea what's coming out of there for audio. As soon as it comes back, we'll get it to you, folks. Thank you, Internet. So right now I'm looking for an alternative feed. I got nothing coming out of these guys. It's like frozen. They probably didn't expect the web traffic. They embedded it on on their site, and that's why I'm looking for another local feed. Somebody says there is one out there. If we can get it to me in Slack, I'll pull it up and we can watch it. Otherwise, you know, It looks like we're kind of stuck here. Sorry, folks. I'm still searching. As soon as I can pull something up, we'll show it, or we'll just kill it. And somebody's delivered a feed. We'll pull it right up.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming out this afternoon, and thanks to the many hundreds of people in the other room. We appreciate their being here as well. And let me thank David and John and Marty for their generous introductions. And let me just pick up on a point that Marty made. His family, as I understand it, came from Poland.
Audio was terrible. Nothing I can do about it. It's audio at the source. Apologize, guys. I'll do my best to boost it, but they could increase it massively.
What was the proudest American that you can imagine, because this country gave him incredible opportunity. And Marty talked a bit about trade agreements, so let me get right into that. What this campaign is about is doing something fairly radical in American politics. We are trying to tell the truth. That's a radical idea. And that means bringing forward issues and ideas that sometimes people feel uncomfortable with, but we got to talk about them, because unless we know how we got to where we are today, it's very hard to go forward. All right? Now, one of the areas that Marty mentioned was trade policy. And that's something I have been involved in for a long time. It is not a sexy issue. And you'll see very, very little coverage of trade on television. Corporate America doesn't discuss trade very much. TV, radio, newspapers. But what happened here? Everybody in this room would be shocked to know, as I was, that in 1960, Detroit, Michigan was one of the wealthiest cities in the United States of America. Many of you would be shocked to know that Flint, Michigan was a wealthy city. So the question that we need to ask is that with all of the new technology, all of the increase in productivity, what happened to cities like Detroit, Flint, and many, many others all over this country? What happened? And one of the things that happened is that under Democratic and Republican administrations, this country adopted trade policies that the big money interests in corporate America wanted. Now, you don't need to have a PhD in economics to figure this one out. If you are a large multinational corporation, why would you want to pay a worker in Michigan 20, 25, 30 bucks an hour when you can shut down those plants here, go to Mexico, go to China, go to Vietnam, go to other low-wage countries, pay people pennies an hour, not have to deal with unions, not have to protect environmental laws, and then you can bring your products right back into this country. That is what these trade agreements were designed to do. That is what they did, and that is one of the reasons that the middle class in this country is disappearing. When I was first elected to the Congress from Vermont in the early 1990s, I was out on picket lines against NAFTA. And during those years, I made a trip to Mexico, part of a congressional delegation. Never forget this. We went to a region in Mexico called the Maquiladora region, which is a special zone, tax-free zone, where corporations are invited to come to. And you go to that region, this is the early 1990s, what you see are these beautiful, new, state-of-the-art factories, many of them American corporations, some European. And you see these huge factories, and then you say, okay, that's really nice. Now I want to go to the workers' homes, the workers who are working, Mexicans who are working in those factories. Well, the problem was that we couldn't visit the homes of the Mexican workers because they didn't live in homes. They lived in cardboard shacks. Do you know the cardboard boxes that you get a refrigerator in or a washing machine? That was what they were living in. Filthy water, minimal light. They had some electricity strung up, a light bulb. They were making back then, this is the early 1990s, 25 cents an hour. And that is what, to a large degree, these trade agreements are about. NAFTA and permanent normal trade relations with China have cost this country millions of decent-paying jobs. I fought every one of these trade agreements, and if elected president, we are going to very fundamentally transform trade policy in this country. Hillary Clinton was on the other side of many of these trade agreements, supporting NAFTA, supporting PNTR with China, supporting the Korean Free Trade Agreement, Colombian Free Trade Agreement. So if the people of Michigan want to make a decision about which candidate stood with workers against corporate America, against these disastrous trade agreements, that candidate is Bernie Sanders. Now, there are some other very basic disagreements between Secretary Clinton and myself. One of them is how we raise money for a campaign. And let me be very clear. When I tell you what's going on in American society, I'm going to tell you some unpleasant truths, but they are true. And that is, we have a campaign finance system today which is corrupt, and it is undermining American democracy. Now, what democracy is supposed to be about, you get a vote, I get a vote. You disagree with me, you don't want to vote for me, that's fine. That's called democracy. Democracy is not about billionaires buying elections. Democracy is not about the Koch brothers and a handful of other billionaires spending $900 million on this campaign. $900 million to elect candidates who will represent the rich and the powerful. When you have one family spending hundreds of millions of dollars on an election, that is not democracy, that is oligarchy. And together we are going to stop the oligarchic drift in this country. Now, one of the differences between Secretary Clinton and myself is she has a number of super PACs. Her one largest super PAC recently reported raising $15 million from Wall Street. Now, every candidate in the world, Republican, Democrat, receives a huge amount of money from Wall Street or the drug companies or the fossil fuel industries. They always say, doesn't impact me, no influence over me. Well, the question that we have got to ask, if it has no influence over them, why is Wall Street putting $15 million into that election? Second issue is related to that. Secretary Clinton, as many of you know, has given speeches behind closed doors to large Wall Street firms like Goldman Sachs, paid $225,000 per speech. Now, what I think is if you're going to get paid $225,000 for an hour speech, it is probably a really, really great speech. And that's a lot of money for an hour's work. And if you're going to give such a great speech, clearly you want to share it with the American people, right? So we hope very much that the Secretary will be kind enough to share that extraordinarily powerful speech with the rest of us. Third issue I want to talk about. Everybody in this room knows how important sensible foreign policy decisions are. This is a question of life and death. This is one of the things most important that a President of the United States does. Back in 2002, I was a member of the House from Vermont, and I listened very, very closely to what President Bush, Vice President Cheney, Don Rumsfeld, and all the rest were saying about Iraq. I listened very closely because I knew that the results of that decision were going to mean young people in my state and in 49 other states going off to war, and some of them not coming home. I listened as closely as I could, and I concluded that Bush and Cheney and the others were not telling the truth. I voted against that war. Secretary Clinton voted for that war. And that was one of the worst, most disastrous foreign policy blunders in the modern history of the United States. That war, as all of you know, led to the kind of chaos and instability in that region and eventually the rising of ISIS, etc. Also, I found it very interesting with regard to foreign policy that at a recent debate that I had with the Secretary, she mentioned that Henry Kissinger praised her. Now, Henry Kissinger, for the young people here, he was Secretary of State in this country, and he will go down in history as one of the most destructive Secretaries of State in the modern history of America. Did terrible, terrible things as Secretary of State. So I found it somewhat alarming that the Secretary Clinton received praise or thought it was worthwhile to receive praise from one of the worst secretaries of state in American history. What this campaign is about is essentially listening to the American people. And what the American people are saying, and by the way, this is across the political spectrum. These are conservatives, moderates, and progressives. And I come to you as perhaps the most progressive member of the United States Senate. But whatever one's political view may be, people are increasingly disgusted by a corrupt campaign finance system. I'm very proud to tell you that we do it differently. We do not have a super PAC. We do not want a super PAC. We do not want to raise money from corporate America or Wall Street. What we have done is ask the American people, working people, for help. And unbelievably, we have received over 4 million individual campaign contributions. And that is more contributions than any candidate in the history of this country up until this point. And you all know what that average contribution is? $27. I'm pretty proud of that. You know, many politicians go to some billionaire's home and they leave with millions of dollars, and we are leaving with an average contribution of $27. That's pretty good. To paraphrase Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg, this is a campaign of the people, by the people, and for the people. And as we go around the country, we're listening. We're listening to the pain of Americans, the anger of Americans, the frustration of the American people. We are listening to workers who come up to me and say, Bernie, I can't make it on $9 or $10 an hour. Met a woman in Nevada. She is making $10.45 an hour. She has a beautiful young daughter. She has student debt. And she says, Bernie, with tears coming down her eyes, I don't know how I'm going to make it. She is talking for millions and millions of workers. It is not a radical idea. And one of the points of this campaign is to get the American people to think big, not small. To ask why not. To ask why. Why we continue to have a starvation minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. That's insane. You can do the arithmetic as well as I can. Multiply 7 1/4, 8, 9 by 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. It is not enough money for a person to live on, let alone a family. It is not a radical idea to say that if somebody works 40 or 50 hours a week, that person should not be living in poverty. During the course of this campaign, I have talked to a number of people who run emergency food shelves. You all know what food shelves are. They're the places where people go to get food. And I ask all over the country, I say, tell me, what percentage of the people who go to the food shelves are working people? And in every case, it is the vast majority of people. But you can't feed a family on $8 or $9 an hour. That is why we have got to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour over the next few years. And this campaign is listening to people who get very, very little attention. Media doesn't cover it at all. And that is the plight of millions of senior citizens in this country. All right, our parents, our grandparents, all over this country, there are seniors and disabled veterans who are trying to make it on $11,000, $12,000 a year Social Security. And you know what? You can't make it on $11,000, $12,000. Not with the cost of prescription drugs, health care, heating your home, buying the food you need. The arithmetic just doesn't add up. Now, there you go, $850 a month on average. Right? Now, my Republican colleagues in the Congress, you know what they want to do? If you can believe it. Hard for me to believe it, but they want to cut Social Security. They think that $850 a month or whatever is just too high. Well, I have some bad news for those Republicans. Not only are we not going to cut Social Security, we are going to expand Social Security benefits. A nation is judged historically not by the number of millionaires and billionaires it has. It is judged by how we treat the weakest and most vulnerable amongst us. And the weakest and most vulnerable are our parents and our grandparents and disabled veterans, and together we are not going to turn our backs on them. They created this country. And when we listen to the people of this country, we listen to a lot of young people. And you know what young people are telling me from coast to coast? They're saying, Bernie, how does it happen that I end up $30,000, $50,000, $80,000 in debt for the crime of trying to get a good education? Stop. Again, what I'm asking folks to do is think outside of the box. Don't accept the status quo. All right, everybody in this room knows two things. You know that education and learning is an inherent part of what being human is about. We've got to learn to the day we die. And number two, what you know is that in a competitive global economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world. So why in God's name are we punishing people with debt that takes them decades to pay off because they want to get the best education that they could? That is crazy stuff. That's crazy. It really is. You stop and you think about it. Everybody says, go out and get an education. Be all you can be. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, but by the way, you're going to end up $50,000 in debt. You're going to have to pay it off for the next 20 years. All right? That's nonsense. Second of all, part of that same issue, we got hundreds of thousands of very bright, young, qualified people in this country who are ready to go to college, who should go to college, but they can't go to college for one reason. Their families lack the income. Again, it is not only unfair to them, it is unfair to the future of our country. We need the best intellectual capabilities we can find. So we have a proposal which does three things. Number one, we are going to understand that when we talk about public education today, it's not good enough to talk about first grade through 12th grade. The world has changed. And educational requirements have changed. So when we talk about public education today, we have got to talk about making public colleges and universities tuition free. Is that a radical idea? It is not. All of you know that many countries around the world are already doing it. Germany is doing it. Scandinavia is doing it. Other countries are doing it. And here's what many people don't know. 50 or 60 years ago in the United States of America, public colleges and universities were virtually tuition free. If we could do it 50 years ago, we sure can do it today. And it's not just the college education. A lot of very bright young people out there who are good with their hands, not academically inclined, they need training to become plumbers and carpenters and sheet metal workers. Now, my opponents say to me, well, Bernie, that's a great idea, Santa Claus. You're giving away all this free stuff. How are you going to pay for it? Okay, this is, again, thinking outside of the box, because I'll tell you how we're going to pay for it. Interestingly enough, when the greed and the recklessness and the illegal behavior of Wall Street drove this economy into the worst recession since the 1930s, Wall Street went begging to the United States Congress, and they said, bail us out. Bail us out. Well, I didn't vote for the bailout, but my colleagues did. Now, if we could bail out Wall Street after their illegal behavior helped destroy our economy, I think it is time to tell Wall Street that, in fact, we're going to impose a tax on Wall Street speculation. And we are going to use that funds to make public colleges and universities tuition-free and lower student debt. We bailed out Wall Street. Now it is Wall Street's time to help the middle class of this country. Okay, when you think big and you talk about a vision for America, you know that there is something wrong when we are not listening to women who tell us that it is just not right that a woman sitting in an office is making 79 cents on the dollar compared to the man in the office doing the same work. And I know that every man in this room will stand with the women in the fight for pay equity for women. And when you want to talk about crazy, let me give you another example of crazy. Well, that too, but give me a minute. We'll get to that in a minute. This is actually even more important, and that is we talk to young couples, couples with small kids. And what every psychologist who studies the issue knows, the most important years of human development are 0 through 4, right? We all know that. That's when we all develop significantly intellectually and emotionally. Given that reality, why is it that millions of young couples today cannot find quality, affordable childcare? How many millions of kids right now are spending their day watching dumb television programs? So what we need to do is to make sure that childcare work is an honored profession, that childcare workers are paid good wages and are well trained. These babies, the 0 through 4, they are the future of America, and we need to treat them accordingly. And this campaign is listening to the African American community. And again, I want you all to think outside of the box, ask why. Why does it happen? And this is what the African American community is asking, what millions of Americans are asking. Why is it that in this great country, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we have more people in jail today than any other country? Think about it. Think about it. China is a communist authoritarian country 4 times our size. They don't tolerate dissent too well. We have more people in jail than China does. It is crazy. And it speaks to a broken criminal justice system and institutional racism that we have got to address. It is unacceptable. It is unacceptable and an American tragedy of the worst degree that today, if we do not change it, and we must, an African-American male baby born today stands a 1 in 4 chance of ending up in prison. That is a disgrace. So what we are going to do, among many other things, in repairing a broken criminal justice system, is what we are going to do is understand that when youth unemployment is off the charts, African American youth unemployment 51%, we are going to invest in jobs and education, not jails and incarceration. And this campaign is listening to our brothers and sisters in the Latino community. And they are telling me that they are tired of living in the shadows, tired of living in fear, and that they need, and we all need, comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. And this campaign is listening to the Native American community. I don't have to tell anybody here. I don't have to tell anybody here how shamefully from day one we have treated the Native American community. Decade after decade, century after century. I was in Hibbing, Minnesota a few days ago talking to some Native American leaders there. What they are telling me, half of their kids drop out of high school. Drug addiction is an epidemic. Suicide rates among the kids is very, very high. Healthcare system is totally inadequate. We will not turn our backs on those people who gave us so much and to which we owe so much. This campaign is about telling you the truth, and I want to tell you the truth. No president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do what has to be done for working families in this country alone. Can't be done alone, no matter how well-intentioned, hardworking, or smart a president may be. And the reason for that, this is a harsh truth, but it is the truth, that the power of Wall Street, unlimited sums of money, unlimited, the powers of corporate America that are so powerful, they can shut down a plant in America today and move to China if they will make $5 more in profit. That's what they do. Corporate media, which decides what you see and hear. Large campaign donors who control a lot of what goes on legislatively. No president can do it alone. And that is why I have said over and over, what this campaign is about is electing a president, yes, but equally important, it is creating a political revolution where the American... every person in this room, in this country, is enormously powerful if you choose to use your power. Last election, when Republicans won a landslide, 63% of the American people did not vote, 80% of young people did not vote. And that is exactly what the big money interests want. They want people to say, oh, politics is crap. We're not going to vote. We're not going to participate. Meanwhile, they will spend hundreds of millions of dollars to elect their candidates. Their governors will suppress the vote to make sure that people who vote against them are not able to vote. If they think that politics is so important that they're willing to spend hundreds of millions of dollars, every American should catch on and know that, in fact, what goes on in Washington, what goes on in your state capital is enormously important. We have got to become involved. Everybody here knows, and Michigan knows it as well as anybody, change never takes place from the top on down, always takes place from the bottom on up. The trade union movement, which has been so strong here in Michigan, started when workers said, we will not be treated like we're animals. We are human beings. We need dignity. We are going to engage in collective bargaining. We are going to form a union. And a lot of people struggled and got beaten up and went to jail. Some died for the right for workers to have collective bargaining. Civil rights movement, the same, from the bottom on up. From way back when, millions of African Americans and their white allies said, you know what, racism and bigotry and segregation is not what this country is about. A 100 years ago, people forget this. 100 years ago, not a long time, from a historical perspective, women in America did not have the right to vote. Could not go and get the education they wanted, could not get the jobs that they wanted. They were third-class citizens. But women and their male allies said, no, in America, women will not be third-class citizens. We're going to change that. And that's how change takes place, from the bottom on up. And if we were in this room, let me give you just two more examples of real change. If we were in this room 10 years ago, not a long time ago, 10 years ago, and somebody said, you know, I think that gay marriage will be legal in 50 states in this country by 2015, the guy next to him would have said, what are you smoking? Which raises another issue. But here's the point. Gay community against enormous opposition with their straight allies said something very profound. They said, okay, sorry, we need a medic. All right, do we have a medic in the room? Medic, doctor, nurse? All right, we got somebody coming, medic. All right, we got a medic right here. We need some water. Okay, I think she is all right and now getting some fresh air. So what I wanted to say, and the point of this whole thing, is that change takes place not when some president signs a document or the Supreme Court makes a decision. Change takes place when people demand that change takes place, when people look around them and say, the status quo is not acceptable. We have got to change it. And that is where we are right now as a people. In my view, when the top 0.1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%, that is not acceptable. When the 20 wealthiest people in this country own more wealth than the bottom half of America, 150 million people, that is not acceptable. When in Vermont and in Michigan and all over this country, we have people working not one job, but 2 jobs, 3 jobs, to cobble together some income and some health care, and 58% of all new income goes to the top 1%. That's not acceptable. So our job is to create an economy that works for everybody, not just the people on top. I was in Flint, Michigan last week, and you all know what is going on there literally is beyond comprehension. I have never heard, I've heard a lot of stories in my life. I have met with a lot of people. But I have never met with people who are seeing their own kids being poisoned in the United States of America. But Flint is just the top of the iceberg here. And that is that all over this country, our infrastructure, our water systems, wastewater plants, our rail, our airports, our roads, and our bridges are falling apart. We can create 15 million jobs rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. Let's do it. Republican candidates are running all over this country talking about family values. I want everybody here to be clear about knowing what they're talking about. They are saying, and what they mean by family values, is that no woman in this room, in this state, in this country, has the right to control her own body. I disagree. What they are talking about in family values is that our gay brothers and sisters should not have the right to get married. I disagree. They want to end federal funding for Planned Parenthood. I want to expand funding for Planned Parenthood. I'm a member of the Senate Committee on the Environment and the Senate Committee on Energy. And let me tell you something my Republican friends do not know, but they should know. And it's time they knew it. Climate change is real. Climate change is caused by human activity. Climate change is already causing devastating problems in this country and around the world. We have a moral responsibility to make certain that the planet we leave future generations is a planet that is healthy and habitable. And what the scientists tell us, and I'm on the committee that deals with this, what the scientists tell us, if we do not get our act together, take on the fossil fuel industry and transform our energy system away from fossil fuel, by the end of this century, this planet will be between 5 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer. And what that will mean, more drought, more floods, more extreme weather disturbances, more acidification and destruction of ocean life, more rising sea levels, more international conflict as people fight for limited natural resources. We must have the courage and the determination to tell the fossil fuel industry that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. And when we think big, it's important to ask a very simple question. How does it happen that every other major country on earth, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, Holland, Scandinavia, Canada, you name it, every major country on earth guarantees health care to all of their people? But for some reason, we do not. Now, the Affordable Care Act has done some very good things. We've ended pre-existing conditions. We've provided health insurance to over 17 million Americans, and we've done away with discrimination against women who are paying higher premiums because they're women. But 29 million Americans still have no health insurance. Many of you have high deductibles and copayments, and we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. In fact, the pharmaceutical industry is ripping us off all over the place. And then to add insult to injury, we end up spending much more per capita on health care than do the people of any other country. That is why, in my view, we've got to join with the rest of the industrialized world. Health care for all, health care as a right, not a privilege. And that's why we have to move toward a Medicare for all health care program. Now, one of the criticisms leveled at me is I am not electable. Well, for those who say that, go look at all of the polls, or most of the polls that are out there, and what they will show you is that Bernie Sanders is defeating Trump, sometimes by double digits. A CNN poll the other day had us 12 points ahead of Trump. State poll after state poll has us beating him in some cases by very, very wide margins. But that's not the reason why we beat Trump, because the American people do not want a president who insults Mexicans, who insults women, who insults Muslims, who insults African Americans. Don't forget, don't ever forget that Trump was one of the leaders of the so-called birther movement, questioning the legitimacy of President Obama's presidency. Now, it's a funny thing. Obama's father was born in Kenya. My father was born in Poland. Funny thing. Nobody ever asked for my birth certificate. Maybe it has something to do with the color of my skin. But most importantly, we will defeat Trump because the American people understand that bringing us together trumps dividing us up. The American people understand that community, helping each other, making sure we're not alone but we're supporting each other, trumps selfishness. And most profoundly, and at the heart of all religions and all moral teaching, is the understanding that at the end of the day, love trumps hatred. Now, on Tuesday, there is going to be a very, very important primary here in Michigan. We will win if large numbers of people come out. We will lose if there is a low voter turnout. So I would ask every person in this room not only to come out and to vote, but bring your friends and your relatives and your neighbors and your co-workers. On March 8th, Michigan can help lead this country forward to a political revolution. Let's do it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bernie Sanders live from Traverse City, Michigan. And wow, they didn't have a song there. They didn't have his ending song. Normally, I have to kill the audio on that because they play Starman, and whoever owns that slaps us with a copyright issue for that. Believe it or not. Powerful words out of Bernie Sanders. Seeing some comments here. Give me 1 second, folks. Let me just close this. Thank you for joining us today. There's more than 400 of you with us right now. Really appreciate that. And I saw some amazing comments that I want to address. Some really cool stuff I wanted to talk about really quick. Let me just go up here. First of all, what Bernie said, March 8th, Michigan. Michigan is a key vote. Okay? We really, really need to get the vote out to Michigan. Phone bank, go to votemichigan.gov. Find your polling place. Make sure you got your shit together. If you're there in Michigan and you've got friends who are unsure what they're going to do, please explain to them what's going on here, that you actually have an opportunity to revitalize Michigan, that we can clean up the corruption. We've got somebody who actually gives a shit, who doesn't believe in these trade deals that really screw our country. And I want to talk to you about a couple things I saw in comments. I'm going to scroll all the way back up here. Thank you to the comment moderators, the comment monitors, people that were moderating chat for us. Our chat and our comment engagement, this is what makes this what it is. This is the difference between what we're doing and a regular broadcast, everybody else, is that we want to have this conversation. A couple things I noticed here. Clean Lake Superior, I haven't played guitar in a long time, and it would take me a while just to build up the calluses to even be able to play something. I wish I could. One of these days, when we're done saving the planet, we're done getting Bernie in office and all that stuff, I'll take a little time and remember how to play. But for me, that's kind of one of those things that it's just been a while. I would love to. Be nice. I want to be in a cover band, actually. I want to do a cover band. Something like Tragedy. Are they called Tragedy? I can't remember the name of the band. They do Bee Gees covers as metal. They're badass. I can't remember what their full name is. Also, Clean Lake Superior. That is not what it is a crate voodoo from like the late 90s, early 2000s. A tube amp, really has a sweet sound, and crate 125D acoustic amp. Back when I used to play and do some things, but That's what those are. And a couple of the statements here. Yes, vote on March 8th. What did I see? Thor Crowley, where the hell are you, man? And hi, everybody. And sorry if I'm saying it's me bad. We are streaming. This is what Thor says. We are streaming in a refugee camp with about 60 people watching. I was told to say hello on their behalf. Well, hi there. Hi there, everybody in a refugee camp. What's going on there? Tell us. How can we help you? Thank you for watching the program. Thank you for being here. I don't even know where you are, Thor, but that's awesome. It's awesome. Lisa Hauserman, does anybody know if Michael Moore is actually able to campaign for Bernie? I know he supports him, but is he able to be on the road? The last thing I heard was he was not in good health. Does anybody have an update on Michael Moore? Is he doing okay? Does he need our help? What can we do for you, Michael Moore, other than go see your movie? I've offered to work with you, but I don't know what his health status is. That would be great if he could come out. He endorsed Bernie officially, and he wrote a really nice article about it and talked about why. So he did that. Does HRC agree with Debbie Wasserman Schultz on Consumer Protection Choice Act? That's a good question. I have no idea for a number of reasons. I don't know what the Consumer Protection Choice Act is, so I really, I'll have to learn on that, and we'll get somebody in here to talk about that. I don't know. Still got more than 350 of you with us. Thank you for sticking with me. Something else somebody mentioned. I believe it was J Vintage 1970 and a couple others pointed out this website. Give me 1 second here. Where are we at? We're on here. It is, no, not that one. Here, Democracy Spring. We talk about Democracy Spring. So I will start looking at this, but apparently this is a big march this April. So that's coming up here. And I would like to broadcast it. I would like to definitely cover this event. It looks like they've got a nice site. They've got their shit together. They've got a bunch of different organizational pieces. Democracyspring.org. Go there, folks. I'll do some studying on it. If anybody in the audience knows about it, would like to provide us some more information, or if there's anybody in our Slack volunteer group who's been trained on live production who wants to talk about it, that would be great. And let's find out what's going on. I'd love to broadcast. We're just going to have to find a way to get equipment there and people there, and that's not a big deal. So yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. I think that's great. I had a few other notes. Take some notes. Bernie said a couple of things that are really cool. He said, we are all powerful if we choose to be. We know this. This is our government. History repeats itself, folks. We are the people. We have the volume. We have the power. We just have to take it back. This is what we're doing, okay? I was thinking about this. There's a lot of people that are getting discouraged in the terms of the delegate game, getting discouraged by established media. Me, I'm working hard to stay positive right now, to stay focused on what matters. I don't want to get, this show has evolved. Everything we do here has evolved. And the fact that I'm spending a lot more time in front of the camera, it wasn't an ego trip really. It was just about lack of resources, lack of availability of people. But I wanted to end the ranting and get down to more discussing, right? And the reason I say that is here's what makes what we're doing so difficult. How difficult do you think it is to reverse the flow of a river? Think about that. Take a river, any river, the smallest river you could possibly think of, a little creek, the smallest thing. Find its source. How do you reverse the water flow? Literally reverse the flow. That is what we are doing here with our government. Our money leaves us in a river and goes to the government and then disappears. And it used to be an ecosystem where the money left us, our effort, our essence, the American force went to the government. The government utilized the resource and distributed the resource in a way that was acceptable to everybody, right? But what happened was the river stopped redistributing. That flow stopped and just welled up in a pool. We have to go to the source, stop the flow, reverse the flow back to us. That's a much more impossible way to view what we're actually doing with government. Right? And that's why it seems so difficult, is because we really have to reverse the flow of goods or break the dam that brings that flow back around to us, because it's been stopped. And that's why it looks so ridiculous. That's why everything we're doing looks so ridiculous to people who are absolutely stuck with establishment thinking. That that's ridiculous. You can't do that. You can't reverse the flow of a river. Nobody does that. Right? That's what we need to do. So I just wanted to give you that analogy, because that's what it was coming back to me as. That's what I was feeling it as. Just kind of thinking about what's going on. So looking at what you guys said, play, I believe, Berni. Hey guys, swearing. All right. So we've got, that's it. I just want to talk about those things. Remember, phone banking, Michigan, March 8th. Push it, work it. If you're there, canvass it. If you're there and you've got friends that aren't planning on voting, or friends that aren't interested in the political process, bribe them. Offer them something. Buy them dinner. Buy them beer. Whatever it is, say, look, guys, this is the planet we're saving here. Let's go vote. What Bernie says about people showing up is so true. The establishment people may not show up if we can get, and it's the young, it's the youth, it's those of us that are connected to the net. If we rise, there are more of us. Rise, find all of us, get us there. I still meet people that aren't interested in this. I go to the store and like the cashier, I'm like talking about Bernie Sanders, the cashier's like, oh, I've heard of him. What? Are you even interested in your political process? No. I know there's an election coming up. What? These people exist. These people exist. Find them. Get them to vote. We have to vote. We can take back this country. We can take back this country simply by getting off our asses. It's the most amazing prospect. I'm going to run us out of here because we have another event to go to, and I know people are taking off. Tulsi is on campaign stage. Subscribe channel. Do we have another event like going live right now? If there is, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. I know Bernie's right on the way to Grand Rapids. Bernie's on his way to Grand Rapids, and it looks like we have a local feed of that. So I'll set up an event, and we'll do that. Also, thank you, volunteers. Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, everybody else whose names I'm not even going to get in here because there's so many of you in there. For folks that create backup media for me so that I have it, I appreciate that. I appreciate all of it. So thank you very much. I'm not able to say that correctly. All right, where'd my end song go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Here it is. We have to end with this one, because I want to remind everybody. That things are not as they appear to be with our government, and that's a hard thing to accept. It's a hard thing for my mom. My mom took a long time to weigh what we understood of marijuana, cannabis, in the Reagan era, in the 80s. My mom, in 2014, was very interested in exploring alternative methods of medicine before she died from cancer. And one of those was cannabis. And I thought it would be good for her to explore cannabis, but she was so stuck, and so was I, with the 80s. I smoked cannabis, but I grew up believing that it was wrong, just indoctrinated it was wrong because of the commercials, because of what I heard in the 80s, right? The Just Say No era. And my mom, the only reason she was able to rise above that really was because she was a nurse and she studied, she understood science. She wasn't stupid. She was like, government says this, but I see that it's different. But the whole fact that it was illegal at the time and controversial kept her from trying it. That's a product of misinformation, of lies that come from the government, from the establishment government. And when we look at those lies in the record, we need to look at the record, the truth. Look at what Ronald Reagan said and did. Look at the causality. Look at the effect today. Look at Hillary Clinton's record. Look at what she said, then look at what she did. Look at the effect today. Right? We got to remember the past. We have to remember the past. It's something that's been kicked out of us. It's something that we don't even believe. The past certainly couldn't have anything to do with the present, with America. The past, Ronald Reagan era past, really screwed us. Took a lot of money out of social services and put it towards the military. And we've been living with those consequences ever since. So we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys in the next event. Grand Rapids coming up here in a little bit. I think it starts at 7 p.m. Eastern, maybe 8 p.m. Eastern. And otherwise, we're going out with Killer Mike, Reagan, because this is the truth. He was just an actor, folks. Feel the burn.
Our government has a firm policy not to capitulate to terrorist demands, that no concessions policy remains in force. In spite of the wildly speculative and false stories about arms for hostages and alleged ransom payments, we did not, repeat, did not trade weapons or anything else for hostages. Nor will we.
The ballad of the bullet, some freedom or some bullshit. Will we ever do it big or just keep settling for little shit? We brag on having bread, but none of us are bakers. We all talk having greens, but none of us own acres. If none of us own acres and none of us grow wheat, then who will feed our people when our people need to eat? So it seems our people starve from lack of understanding, cause all we seem to give them is some ballin' and some dancing and some talking about our car and imaginary mansions. We should be indicted for bullshit we inciting, telling children deaf and pretending it's exciting. We are advertisements for agony and pain. We exploit the youth, we tell them to join the gang. We tell them dope stories, introduce them to the gang. Just like our lover North introduced us to cocaine in the 80s when them bricks came on military plane.
A few months ago, I told the American people I did not trade arms for hostages. My heart and my best intentions still tell me that's true, but the facts and the evidence tell me it is not.
The end of the Reagan era, I'm like Lemma 12er, old enough to understand the shit had changed forever. They declared the war on drugs, like a war on terror, but what it really did was let the police terrorize whoever. But mostly black boys, but they would call us niggas, and lay us on our belly while they fingers on their triggers. They boots was on our head, they dogs was on our crotches, and they would beat us up if we had diamonds on our watches. And they would take our drugs and monies as they pick our pockets. I guess that's the privilege of policing for some profit. But thanks to Reaganomics, prison turned to profits, cause free labor's the cornerstone of U.S. economics. Cause slavery was abolished unless you are in prison. You think I ambush it and then read the 13th Amendment. Involuntary servitude and slavery it prohibits. That's why they giving drug offenders time in double digits. Ronald Reagan was an actor, not at all a factor. Just an employee of the country's real masters. Just like the Bushes, Clinton and Obama, just another talking head telling lies on teleprompters. If you don't believe the theory, then argue with this logic. Why did Reagan and Obama both go after Gaddafi? We invading sovereign soil, going after oil. Taking countries is a hobby paid for by the oil lobby. Same as in Iraq and Afghanistan. And Ahmadinejad say they coming for Iran. They only love the rich and how they load the poor. If I say any more, they might be at my door. Who the fuck is that? Staring in my window, doing that surveillance on Mr. Michael Render. I'm dropping off the grid before they pump the lead. I leave you with 4 words, I'm glad Reagan dead.
Huge